To start with a silly, fun question, how long did it take you guys to learn and actually get the title right? Because I feel like sometimes I just keep calling the show The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Guy That Also Lives There, because it feels like any variation kind of works. But did you have to practice to get that right?
I got it right away, and that's not a brag. That's because it felt like a wonderful joke. And I think when someone does a really good bit or makes a really good joke that's just tonally perfect, it I tend to remember it. I feel like this title really lets the audience know that we are going to be making fun of things, and this might not be as serious as they think.
Michael and Tom, how about for you guys? Like when you explain the show to your friends or family, do you get the title right?
I mean, yeah, and I don't know if it's because I mean, I guess I have practiced because I've said it more than some people would say it, but I explaining that title, there's like a little joy to being able to say, oh, that's what I'm shooting, and that's what's going to be on soon, The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window, because you see people think that the title should have ended. It should have ended 5 seconds ago, and you're still going, and there's a joy in that for sure.
The title is definitely tied into the experience, right? Having lived through this experience of making this project, you kind of think that's it. I mean, you could even probably add more. Like it is such an appropriate title for this experience that I think the viewers will have.
The title is too much and the show is too much.
Exactly.
And that's why it works, because titles are supposed to economize language, to let you know just a tiny little hint of what you're about to get into. And we tell you almost everything, and we tell you mostly non-pertinent details about the show in the title. That's kind of why the whole bit works.
When you all learned who the actual killer is and you read the script and you saw how it all plays out, what was your reaction, and how do you think viewers are going to react?
I could never in my wildest dreams, and I spent a lot of years playing a detective on television. I could never have guessed that this is how they would have ended it, but it feels perfect. I think the most shocking thing was how violent the ending got, from my perspective.
Tom, what about you? I mean, how did you react to learning how things would end up?
I mean, I love the end. It feels perfect for what the show is, while at the same time being completely unexpected. And like Kristen said, it was incredibly violent, and I was there for the violence. I couldn't do anything about it, but there was some brutal stuff going down.
Michael, was there anything that you were particularly surprised about? Was it just the ending that surprised you? Were there moments along the way that surprised you? Was it a lot of, oh my God, I can't believe this is where they're taking this?
Yeah, there's a lot of, oh my God, this is where we're going. Like it was a roller coaster ride from the moment I read, the scripts. I mean, I was just having these laugh out loud moments in these big gasps every time I read this, the scripts. And so, they didn't feel like they had limits. The writers really felt like they didn't have any limit to how absurd or how outrageous they were going to make a situation to be. And it was a joy to actually see them kind of push the boundaries, especially with this particular genre.
I was so impressed with how this show takes on everything with these types of stories, from the wine to the rain to the attic, all of the misdirection, adding in grief and a love story. I mean, just everything is in this, and somehow it manages to all work. Were you ever worried that you were taking on too much and throwing too many things into the mix, or was everybody always giving suggestions for things to add?
I mean, I certainly didn't give suggestions to add anything, because these writers, Larry, Hugh, and Rachel, who I've known for a while, they're trained groundlings, they're trained writers, they're very, very good at what they do. And Rachel has read and watched every psychological thriller ever, and is particularly interested in the ones that are written by women for women and what that entails. And so I didn't add anything, but I actually felt like unless they went for broke, and like Michael said, were completely uninhibited about what kind of absurdity they would throw at you, and unless they made fun or commented on everything in this genre, it wouldn't work. This is a show that we acted with subtlety, but nothing about the world of the show is subtle. It's all very in your face.
Kristen, you also got to do the final scenes with the wild cameo that everybody will talk about by the end of the show. What was it like to shoot that, especially with who you got to shoot it with?
It felt like the psychological thriller gods were blessing us, because the queen of all psychological thrillers, having put effort into even reading the email with the invitation to be a part of this, was so thrilling, and it almost it made me feel safe to poke fun at this genre, knowing that she gave it her blessing.
Michael, what was it like to explore this relationship? The relationship between your characters is serious, it's dramatic, it's sad. I mean, what was it like to really kind of have all of that drama in the middle of all of this craziness?
I've had my fair share of love stories that I've participated in, and there was never one that was like this. This one just had so many more layers to it. It had so many more twists and turns and, trauma, quite honestly. This relationship was rooted in trauma. And so in a lot of ways, it was much more complicated. And as Kristen was saying earlier, the most complicated part of it was the tone, being hopelessly in love, but also kind of an idiot about it. You know what I mean? Like, love can make you an idiot. And that's how I felt Douglas was in a lot of ways.
Tom, your character is someone that we learn about through the relationships that he has with the women in his life, from his dead wife to his neighbor to his girlfriend to his daughter. What was it like to explore each of those relationships and find the character through all these different sides to him? Because he sort of feels like a different person with each person in his life.
Well, I think that's partially because a lot of what you're seeing is Anna's perspective of him. And so she is constantly remaking in her mind who the man is, whether he is the great hope that she's been waiting for her whole life or whether he's a murderer. And she bounces back and forth. And some of those relationships that you see, you're not seeing the truth, you're seeing how Anna is imagining it. So yeah, it's very much about playing the role that is simultaneously the man he is, the man I know he is, but it's all revealed in episode 4, and at the same time trying to play the guy that's Anna's invention.
Kristen, I absolutely love the character of Buell because I also love Cameron Britton. It's hilarious and insane that he pretty much exists just to fix a mailbox, which kind of makes him the worst handyman ever. So how much fun was it to have that dynamic as really sort of the only constant that runs throughout this whole show?
It was a lot of fun because not only was it the constant, but it was usually when there's a constant, when there's a wise old tree in a cartoon, you go back to the constant, you get new information. Buell's character gives absolutely no information or is not helpful in any way. He's just the constant. And so Anna doesn't really know where to place him other than he's just always there. And then as the story unravels and there's this wonderful line that I have to Michael's character when I say, what was Buell like when you hired him to fix our mailbox all those years ago? And just that line, it kind of sums up what we're doing. And you go, oh my God, he's been fixing that mailbox for years. And if you really watch Cameron's performance, he's so great because he's picking things up and he's looking at them and this is my to-do list. He's picking things up and he's like just a screwdriver. He analyzes everything before he touches it. It's great. And it's absolutely pointless, which is perfect.
Yeah, I loved everything about it. I loved this show. I had such a blast watching it. And really kudos to all of you for pulling this off because it shouldn't have been able to be, and it is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Christina.